Leftover lasagne.
Leftover lasagna.
Lasagna? No way.
It's a type of sandwich.
Some kind of gross pasta.
Leftover lasagna is a
podcast
hosted by
my
Nitin
church
Sundar and Tony Uncle. Leftover lasagna.
Very funny name.
Hello and welcome to Leftover Lasagna, the pod run by flawed bods who plod and prod. And somehow through this continued fraud, we leave even God awed. That's right, this is the fad that refuses to fade, run by dads who continue to blade, and explores the mad of which we are made. This is episode 40, where we talk about the hullabaloo around Labubu. I am Tony, the guy who is instantly recognizable by my unique set of teeth and have been called a monster by anyone who's seen my mind. And joining me is the man who knows a thing or two about being looked upon like a doll that every girl must have. From Netherlands to Hong Kong, they all dream about his nether glands and dig dog. Okay, no, say hi.
Hi, Tony. Hello, how are you doing? As far as teeth being a calling card goes, I think I have you beat on this one because when I was, I think, 7 years old, I broke my front two teeth. So those have been crowns ever since. So yeah, I think I'm more
Don't
accomplished.
take away the one thing I have now. What is this nonsense?
What did you say? Netherlands and Hong Kong, which is not
Correct.
entirely opposite because I'm actually wearing an orange jersey today, but it is a not Hong Kong, it's a Bangkok orange jersey. So you came
Okay.
close, but no cigar. What is it? Netherlands.
But you think I came up with these geographic places randomly or what? Obviously not. This is not some Mercator projection. We will
You
we
didn't
will
come up
come
with
to
them
that.
randomly and you still got them wrong. So, what does that say about you?
No, Netherlands and Hong Kong is because the creator of Labubu was a
Yeah,
Hong Kong based guy who grew up in Netherlands.
yeah.
And I think we're getting straight into it. Wow, this is new, man.
Let's do that for a change instead of
This
messing
is
around.
new. Yeah. You've changed your house. We've changed the format. This is how we
Everything
roll
is
now.
new. No, but you said we are actually, for a change, going to get to the topic immediately. But our
Yeah.
listeners have no idea what we are talking about because, like us, most of them have no idea what Labubu is. So, just to
Yeah.
clarify to bits and pieces audience that might have strayed into our sister podcast, we are not talking about recently dropped Australian batsman Marnus Labubu Shadne. We are talking Marnus Labubu Khagne. We are instead talking about Labubu dolls, which is
Yeah.
apparently a trend that has taken over the world by storm. But Tony said context for what a Labubu doll is. And do you have one?
Yeah. Yeah, which is why it made it to the intro, right? So basically, this is from a picture series or picture book that was first created, I think, in 2015 by this guy called Casing Lung, who is a Hong Kong born artist, but he was raised in Netherlands, right? Why Netherlands becomes important is that this basically is a brand of plush toy monsters,
Yeah.
which are also elves, right? And basically, it is inspired by the Nordic folklore, as it were, and mythology. And but it is set in a, I guess, Hong Kongish construct. And this was obviously like the name of the story series is just the monsters, right?
Yeah.
And funnily, there are multiple monsters, right? So there is Mokoko, Pato, Spooky, Taikoko, which is incidentally Labubu's skeleton looking boyfriend, who is also a vegetarian monster. I don't know what that is. And Zimomo, right?
Yeah.
So the whole point being that Labubu is not even the leader of this gang, right?
Yeah.
This was started and this was sold by Pop Mart in Asia in 2019,
Yeah.
but it's suddenly seeing a huge moment in the sun, and
Yeah.
we are
Before we
sort
go
of
into
listening.
why it is seeing a moment in the sun, we should point out you spoke about Casey Lung from Netherlands, right? Or
Yeah,
casing lung, right? A
casing lung.
casing casing lung is basically chest, no?
Yeah, correct. You had to get that off your chest.
I absolutely had to get that off my chest. A
A
chest from
chest
Netherlands
from
came up with,
Netherlands
yeah,
containing treasure.
containing treasure. Yeah, this was destined to be. So,
Treasure
what
and peer pressure because now everybody wants a Labubu. That's where
exactly?
we're at. We are a visual podcast, no? We can show what a Labubu looks like. No, but
Yeah,
the reason I asked was the last time we recorded, obviously we got a lot of views because we used your
yeah,
thirst trap pick from the
yeah,
frisbee season, right? This
yeah.
time you promptly went and played frisbee wearing full clothes, so that we don't even have those set of watchers, listeners, whatever.
And Labubu, as Tony described, is it has a very distinctive look. Apparently, it looks a little evil, but is also very cuddly and plush. So it's a mix
Yeah.
of salt and sugar, and everybody loves it. What is also beautiful about the Labubu is when you buy a Labubu, there are these limited edition Labubus which you don't know what they're going to look like until you unbox them and take them out.
Oh, blind
Yeah,
box.
it's called a blind box, mystery box or something. That's what they call it. And those are the limited editions one which have the most craze. So imagine you are paying most amount of money for something when you don't even know what it is. Now Labubus have been around, like you said, for a few years, but they suddenly shot to popularity. I think last year sometime when somebody from Blackpink, one of the singers from Blackpink, in their Instagram posts or somewhere were seen uh, sporting these Labubu tchotchkes, right, for want of a better word, that they had tied to their...
Tchotchke. Why? For want of a better word.
Can you think of a better word? What
Can
else do
we
you have in your mind?
can we peek into your mind's dictionary
Look
and
who's
see how
talking.
tchotchke?
Accoutrement. What else do you call it? I don't know. A small decorative keychain type
Keychain?
things.
No, it was a keychain. Dash.
Yeah, but was it a keychain, by the way, that she was sporting, or was it just one of those things she had hung from a bag?
I
Or
think it's a
something?
keychain, yeah, which
Oh,
you
it was a
plug into your bag, right? One of those things. A
Okay.
tchotchke.
A church cake keychain. So people started seeing this, and then people said, "Oh, if Blackpink, I don't know the name of the singer. I don't follow Blackpink or K-pop. I
Lisa,
think you
I
do.
think.
Lisa from Blackpink.
I
That
don't,
is
but
what.
as a dad to a 9-year-old girl,
Yeah,
Blackpink is right up my alley.
yeah. And then I think people noticed it there, and I think it is Dunning-Kruger effect, where you see something and start seeing it in many other places. So
They,
people,
that is not Dunning-Kruger.
that is Bader-Meinhof. Correct, Bader-Meinhof. What is Dunning-Kruger? Back to we have to revise older episodes.
Dunning-Kruger is basically less intelligent people think they're very intelligent, and
Correct.
intelligent
Yeah,
people think they're less
yeah.
so. Maybe not necessarily intelligent, but well informed.
So Tony, until now, thought I was an expert in all these scientific terms, these paradoxes. But now he is having a severe case of Gell-Mann amnesia because there you go. Yeah.
Man.
So Bader-Meinhof effect happened to all those people who noticed Blackpink sporting Labubu toys. They then noticed that David Beckham and a few other popular celebrities were also seen, having these with them, which is when this whole thing just absolutely exploded. And right now they're selling like hotcakes. There was one 4 foot tall Labubu toy doll that sold for, I don't know, some $250,000 or something
Yeah,
at an auction recently. So that's where we are at right now, Tony.
correct. Yeah, interesting. So, what we are broadly talking about in this episode, I had given the draft title as Labubu Doll and Pickleball. We are talking about
Yo.
things that have suddenly, become a huge fad in places where we stay, okay, Bombay, Dubai, wherever, and why?
Oh,
Right? Like,
I mean, on the internet,
what?
global trends. Yeah, these
Yeah,
are global,
correct.
massive trends. This is not like your random chat GPT gimmick, like what was that? The Ghibli thing that we spoke about a few months back. By the way, there's nobody doing it now. It had a moment in the sun for exactly 2
Obviously,
weeks. Yeah,
yeah.
and it went away. So we need to make a distinction between the Ghiblification filter, which is like a very short-lived trend that just comes and goes. Everybody does it, and then everybody forgets about it. Another example would be Wordle, right? Which I think had a slightly longer time in the sun
Hey,
because of
Wordle
the
people still
pandemic.
played. Come on.
Not the way it used to be. Hello, you remember when Wordle took off, what happened, right? All you could
Yeah.
see was Wordle everywhere. By the way, I'm a huge fan of Wordle. I'm not dissing Wordle, but I'm just saying it didn't have that sustained run of popularity that, that either the
You mean
Labubu
the
doll
streak?
or Pickleball, the streak, yeah, nicely done. Either the Labubu doll or Pickleball, for instance, seem to be having, which is a much longer time in the sun. I don't know why we're making this all scientific, but hey, why not?
Correct. So I think the important thing here is, unlike any of those, there is actually a monetary value to a Labubu doll, right? I think it costs around $80.
Yeah, and yeah, so the original Labubu toys sold by Pop Mart cost about $80. But as always, there are fakes, right? So the fakes are actually, they look like Labubus, they talk like Labubus, but they're not Labubus, and experts can make them out. They are called Lahuhu toys, and you can get a Lahuhu for about $1 or $2. By the way, you said you know about Blackpink thanks to your daughter. I know about Labubu toys before you, thanks to my son, who came home one
Correct.
day from school and explained to us what a Labubu is and what a Lahuhu is, and said, if you want to save money, just buy Lahuhu toys. Don't waste your savings on Labubu. Sometimes I
So yeah,
wonder if my
this
son is very worried that his parents are just squandering money on useless shit all the time. He gives us a lot of financial advice. Right? When we are driving on the road, he'll be like, "Don't take this road; it has a toll. Take the other one." Or you say, "Take the shorter route. It's only 7 minutes slower, but it is 2 kilometers shorter, so you will save fuel and all of that." So sometimes I wonder
This
about my son. Yeah.
no, it's amazing because this episode actually came to us via Milan, via Shruti, who mentioned on our extended leftover lasagna podcast group,
Yes.
which is now seen 3 out of 4 people changing homes. So well done to you
You
guys
better
and
get ready, Tony.
Nisha. I better get ready. This is all. Yeah. So unlike your other fads, right? This actually has a monetary cost to it, and obviously peer pressure is also another thing that is happening, right? Because
Yeah.
in the mention of Nisha, her mom was actually asking her, "Why haven't you bought a Labubu doll for your daughter?" Right? So
Yeah.
it is peer pressure from all over the place. I
Yeah.
think this is what the internet has done to us. Nitin, but tell me, did you have a Tamagotchi doll growing up? Was it a doll? Was it a
Gucci.
watch? What was Tamagotchi?
I have no idea, but do you know Omakuchi Narasimhan? No, there is an interesting story behind this. Do you know who
I
Omakuchi
hope
Narasimhan?
so. They're
But
better.
do you know who Omakuchi Narasimhan
No,
is?
I have no idea.
Okay, we have to show this to our listeners. Let me pull it up. Yeah, I'm sure if you Google his image, you would have probably seen him somewhere. He's a Tamil cinema comedian, as most people I reference are. Okay, let me try and share the screen now. Yeah, so this Fido Dido looking character with hair flying in every direction is Omakuchi Narasimhan. Okay,
Okay.
as you can see, he has funny eyes, he has a bald head, but he has the hair flowing on the side, and he used to appear quite often on Tamil, in Tamil movies for I think through the 90s, 80s, maybe even the early 2000s.
Very
Now,
good.
wait, I have to go. This is where it gets interesting. So, Omakuchi, of course, means whatever, a thin stick, right? Like typically, I think the agarbatti stick is called Omakuchi because it's a thin stick, and this guy is very slim. So people thought that is how he got his name. But I learned from a film quiz that is not how he got his name. He used to be a stuntman apparently, and or he looked like he had like Southeast Asian features. So apparently, he was named after Yamaguchi, who's like some Japanese stunt master or something.
Oh man,
So
this
I
is
don't know
like
about Tamaguchi, but I do know about Yamaguchi and Omaguchi Narasimhan. But yeah, now you bring it back and tell us what.
this is like Thug Life going from Yakuza before release to Kakusa after release.
That is perfect. If you prefer.
Tamagotchi it was like a watch only. It looked like an egg. It was a handheld thing. But I think the key thing was it was a fad of the late 1990s and early 2000s. Obviously, it didn't catch on because one, we were more middle class than our children were. And two, I guess the internet didn't exist, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
basically, Tamagotchi was still popular amongst, I guess, more city dwelling kids with relatives abroad and all of that. And I think you had to keep it alive, as in, you had to like feed it from time to time and keep it alive and stuff like that. It was like a virtual pet in that way. So it
Farmville
was
aap yahan. Yes.
before Farmville. This was
Yeah.
a fad, right? So yeah,
I've actually
so
seen, so when you said Tamagotchi, right, that name actually struck a bell in my mind. But since you said Tamagotchi watch, I didn't follow up on it. But now it makes sense. If you go to a Japanese restaurant, sometimes they will have something called a Tamagotchi egg, which is served, within the noodles. And I always used to wonder what the hell is a Tamagotchi egg. It looks like a
oh
regular egg.
really?
But I guess, yeah. And now I realize it's because it probably looks like that watch. It's a very smooth egg with
There's
the
something
yellow
called a
yolk.
Tamagotchi egg. Okay.
Yeah, and I've seen that recently. This now is an example of the Badar Menov effect. Yeah, okay, I got it right
No,
this
not
time.
really, but okay. But dialing
Reverse,
it back
Menov
to
Badar.
things that have come from the Nordics to Asia
Yeah,
and Japan, and what you spoke about restaurants. Salmon, no? Salmon is the biggest example of how
yeah.
Norway basically got Japanese eating sushis.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Say that story, please.
So that story basically is, I think Japan had tuna and sea bream or some of these as their most popular fish back
Yeah.
at that time. And obviously, after a period of time, once we started polluting the ocean, those fish became unhealthy to eat raw.
Yeah.
They were infested with parasites and stuff like that. And aquaculture was just taking off, but also like not in a very sustainable manner. But Norway figured it out, and they sort of had salmon growing in, sort of a contained area, which meant you could eat it raw as well. And like they had a shit ton of salmon, and basically then they started something called Project Japan and sort of introduced it into Japan, right? So it's a recent phenomenon, I think,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
like
yeah.
20, 30 years in our lifetime, as in
Yeah.
the last maybe 20, 30 years. But it's now, if you think of sushi, it is like
Yeah.
impossible to not have salmon on the thing.
Now, talking of imports from the Nordic region, of course, we have to talk about IKEA. IKEA has come up with its own version of the Labubu doll, right?
Okay.
Which I think you shared the link with me. What was
Yeah.
the ad? Pull it out.
The ad says, from the OG creators of toys with hard to pronounce names, Labubu, and they've put a soft toy for 299 rupees, which is called Jungle Skog.
Do you now have an IKEA in Bombay, or is it still only
Yeah,
Hyderabad?
yeah.
There's one in Bombay. I think there's one in
There are
Bangalore
many.
also. Yeah. Oh, there are many IKEAs in Bombay.
Yeah.
No wonder, financial capital of the country, man. Do you remember the days when there used to be a traffic jam outside the IKEA in Hyderabad, which was the only IKEA in India initially, every single day, and it used to be so crowded, and people were like, "This feels like going into a railway station or something." I think now we
Yeah.
have a few more IKEAs in India. We
Yeah.
have IKEA close to our place in Dubai, and we recently shifted homes. As I was telling you, me and my wife
Yeah.
made random trips to that IKEA to buy like one bulb or some small thing. It's just an excuse to go and eat something. The food is excellent in
Yeah.
IKEA. It's actually unbelievable. The quality of the food and the price point is just unbeatable, when it comes to IKEA.
Meatballs with some weird sweet sauce,
Gravy.
Lungenberry. What is
Or
it?
something.
Loganberry. I don't know.
Don't ask me to
One
remember the
very
names.
sweet thing, which is, yeah, anyway. So, but
Yeah.
now we've basically gone pottering around on an elaborate intro without calling it that, but bringing some structure into this, right? So one of the interesting things is about how culture, sort of transcends boundaries, how it used to previously versus how it does now. And taking it back to Blackpink, right? One of the things that we did since we recorded last, Nitin, is that we met in real time, face to face,
Yeah.
in Bangalore, because our friend Iman and Stan and Mila, they're leaving for the US. But interestingly, they spent some time in Korea, and
Yeah.
Stan and Iman were telling us a story of how there would be, what do you call them, scouts outside their
Yeah.
building and in multiple places everywhere in Korea, who basically said, we want to recruit Mila, who was probably then 4 or 5 at that time, to become basically a K-pop person, right? Like, so
Yeah.
the entire persona of like a Blackpink or what is the other one, BTS, etc., is completely handled by Korea as part of their Project Korea in that sense, right? You
Yeah.
would see a lot of cultural exports, whether that's on Netflix, whether it's in food, etc., coming from Korea.
Yeah, I wonder how that entire movement or this Project Korea that you talk about, right? It's not a
Yeah.
formal term. We came up with it obviously, and we're talking about South Korea, not North Korea. But I wonder how it came about, and if it was something planned like China's
Yeah.
Olympic program or something like that.
Yeah, it was, no? It
Oh,
was
it was?
completely,
Okay.
yeah, basically it was
Okay.
about sending Korea's soft power, right, across to derive economic benefits. I
Well
think,
played.
what is it called? It is called the Korean Wave or Hallyu, right?
Korean
So
wave.
it includes everything: K-pop, K-dramas, films like Parasite, series like Squid Game, Blackpink, BTS.
And food like bibimbap and
Yeah, correct.
metal chopsticks, which is what Korea is famous for.
Yeah.
No, but the funny part is this, right? So, if you have an Indian family that is living in Korea and they're aghast, obviously, as Iman and family would have been, to see that there are these scouting agencies outside the building trying to recruit, young kids into K-pop schools.
Yeah.
Imagine they tell this to their relatives back home in India, and those relatives judge them and judge the country for, being this way. And those same people would send their kids to Kota factory,
Yeah.
which is a different kind of the same
Oh,
thing,
yeah,
right?
that's true.
Yeah.
Which
It's
also
funny.
resulted in a thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think it's been largely aided by the internet. Obviously, we've obviously forgotten Gangnam Style, but back
Oh, yeah.
in its day, it was the biggest, most watched YouTube video of its time. right?
Yeah, until Dinesh Karthik's 6 seconds, Bangladesh took out.
Oh yeah, this is actually a fact, no?
No, I mean it is the most watched cricket video on YouTube,
Oh,
or at least
okay,
was
okay,
at
okay.
some point.
Yeah, okay.
I find it tough to believe it still would be. I mean, if it
Yeah.
still is the most watched cricket video on YouTube, it just goes to show you how cheap internet is in Bangladesh and how deeply they were affected by that defeat.
How much
I think it,
trauma
I
they
think it's
want
more
to inflict on themselves. Yeah.
Bangladesh fans who are watching that rather than Indian cricket fans. So this again context for our non-cricketing viewers now who might have landed up on this podcast. So India once won a final against Bangladesh. I think in 2018 it was an Asia Cup final where they had to hit
Nidahas
a
trophy.
six. The Nidahas Trophy. They had to hit a six of the last ball, and they needed about 20 runs of the last over, and eventually a six of the last ball. And Dinesh Karthik, the former Indian wicketkeeper batsman, was the batsman who managed to actually score those runs, including a fantastic six of the last ball that just clears the boundary on the offside by like 3 feet or something. Yeah, so
Good.
pretty
Let
special
us now
moment.
discuss the new boundary rule where
or invite our leftover lasagna listeners to the fantasy league, WTC fantasy league.
beautiful. Okay, so anyway, bringing it back, right? So essentially, what
This
I'm
is all
saying
we are
is
going to do all episode, bringing it back.
everything about Blackpink or BTS, etc., have been carefully constructed, so they don't really are not allowed to have personalities of their own. So this random sighting of Lisa with a Labubu doll, I'm not sure if it is a very planned marketing activity in that way,
No,
right?
yeah, yeah. You're right.
You're not
Yeah,
allowed to have it.
unlikely.
So yeah, I mean, obviously the Labubu doll craze will go away sooner than later. But
You know what a Stanley Cup is? Not the tournament. And I know there's like a hockey tournament called Stanley Cup or anything, but I'm talking about the Stanley mug. You know what the Stanley mug is?
what is the Stanley Mug?
Oh, the Stanley mug is again another big viral. Let me get it once. Okay. I'm sure you would have seen it without realizing it's what it is. And there are plenty of fakes now as well. So pretty sure you would have seen the fake, at least if not the real one. So this is the Stanley mug, right?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah. This again is a super viral product that people are absolutely crazy about and have been so for the last year and a half or so. Now, the reason why this went viral, right? These mugs have been around for a while. This company has been making these mugs. It's a very high quality double walled jug, as you can see, which can keep your hot stuff hot for I think 36 hours and your cold stuff cold for 48 hours. It can keep ice in a hot desert also for a really long time, etc.
Yeah.
It went viral because apparently there was someone in a car who had this in their car and they had an accident, and the car, I mean, nothing happened. Or rather, there was an accident. A person got out of the car safe, but the entire car caught fire, right, and burnt down. Apparently, everything in the car was totaled except for the Stanley mug. The Stanley mug actually survived the fire,
Oh my
and
god.
this news item, I don't even know if this is a real story or an apocryphal story that was made up in the aftermath, and we should check that. And if it is a made up story, then apologies already. I have not verified, but I've heard that is when this thing really went viral and people started buying this like crazy.
Yeah. So
And so the funny thing is, much like the K-pop, or rather, much like Blackpink suddenly becoming the biggest brand ambassador for Labubu toys, this also is a very unplanned thing which happened completely by happenstance. And
yeah.
there you go.
So what
Serendipitous.
I'm obviously thinking right now is, if it survived all of that, is there a YouTube video where Will It Blend does Stanley Mug, right?
Ooh.
Will It Blend obviously is Blend Tech's viral series where they put anything and everything into a blender and say, will it blend? Most
Yeah.
times the answer is yes. So it'll be interesting to see if this has already been done or not. Which
If you want to make a really viral video, what you need to do is you need to get
yeah,
Dinesh Karthik.
we with one second, leftover lasagna with about 100 listeners in total will now tell you how to make viral content. Yeah, go.
Not me, but somebody will make. You need to get Dinesh Karthik. You need to get Paul Adams, the former South African spinner. Put him inside a Stanley mug and see if he will get blended, because frog in a blender. And in the background, you have, open Gangnam Style playing. You've got all the viral elements now. And maybe you actually do a face swap and change Dinesh Karthik's face to a Labubu toy. If this video does not go viral, then you might as well just watch Leftover Lasagna, guys. Like, what else is there in life? I've got all the ingredients. Yeah. Yeah.
Well done. Nice. Come back to is that there are fads that catch on pretty much from time to time, and then it takes a life of its own and it goes away, which is nice, right? Because if you think about it,
Which is
almost
nice
all
because it gives us hope that someday this podcast will go viral, at least for a brief moment in time.
correct.
But yeah, go on.
All work in the world exists to make your leisure time better and more satisfying. Any amount of work that exists in the world is for that. So I think we should take this business more seriously. But the other thing is that this thing started selling in 2019 and it went viral in 2024. So maybe Nitin, leftover lasagna will go viral. We are not even popular in our time. This is what it has resulted in. But
Yeah.
the other thing that I want to talk about was pickleball and its massive popularity in at least in Bombay, but also in Bangalore now, right? Because how can Bangalore be far away from a fad? And I think this is actually a great thing, right? Because what ended up happening, there was this iconic quote, right? From, I don't know where it was originally from, but we've all seen it multiple times, where someone said, sometime during your childhood, you went out to play with your friends, and it was the last time you'd ever have gone out to play, right?
Yeah.
Without realizing it, because post childhood, once you get into college, once you start working, etc., and inevitably you end up in a big city, which means cramped spaces. The only way you sort of got to socialize or hang out with friends involved anything unhealthy, like a pub or a restaurant or
Movies
some of
and
those
alcohol.
things.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
food.
correct.
Correct.
And the problem was twofold. One was real estate became much, much more important, therefore, no room for playgrounds, etc. Second, obviously, your physical abilities also deteriorate after a point in time, right? Which means, unless you are one of those crazy people who go running, hi, Nitin Sundar, what physical activity can you carry out,
Yeah.
that is enjoyable as well as something that's fun, right? And I think pickleball hits the sweet spot beautifully because it needs a smaller area, as in I think the equivalent of a badminton court,
Yeah.
and also it's not as strenuous, right? So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, so pickleball took off during the pandemic, right? A lot of these interesting things actually happened during the pandemic where people were not allowed to go from one locality to another, right? So you're kind of constrained where you are. And people wanted to sort of let off some steam. If you're sitting at home all day, managing kids, managing chores, managing work from home. What pickleball, and I think this is why pickleball really clicked, was because, like you said, it's a relatively easy sport, a very accessible sport to play because it doesn't involve as much exertion as, say, tennis, right? Which is these are all derivatives of tennis, whether it's paddle, pickleball, all these racket sports. And it also takes far lesser space, like you said, a badminton court. Typically, pickleball took off and continues to be played on tennis courts, right? And a single tennis court can host 4 pickleball games at the same time. So if you think about
What,
that,
really?
yeah, that's how many. That's the size of the court. Basically, it's 1/4 of a tennis field. So that then means you have 16 people playing at the same time. Wait, actually more, no? 1, 2, 3, 4.
16, yeah.
Yeah, 16 people.
You went to which
Zach
school you went to, Ravel?
Galifianakis square root.
I may eat your heart out.
No, man, it's the power of compounding, right? So in my mind, I was like, is it 64 people or 16?
It's all happening in one compound that way.
Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why it took off. It is also, like I said, it's a easier sport to play because they play it with a slightly harder ball. I think it's almost a plastic ball. It doesn't bounce too
Yeah.
much. So, you don't have to jump.
And the net is lower, yeah.
The net is lower. You need to stay close to the net. Keeping the ball in play is a more important skill than, smashing and finishing a point. So
Have you
it's
played
a slow,
pickleball?
I'm not, but I've watched some videos of pickleball and I've fallen asleep while watching them.
Yeah, that's.
No judgment. I think.
Is that pickleball or is it Max?
So yeah,
But
so
no,
Max,
one second. So the reason
Yeah.
I started out saying it is a good thing is because in general, in all our previous discussions, we've been like, who the fuck plays this sport, right? Because it looks so unappealing as a spectator sport in that sense, right? Because you're
not just
dinking
both
to
as a
death.
spectator. Yeah, it's apparently there is this term called dinkathon, which we will try and plug over, to make this video even more interesting and actually make it antiviral. We will now put a clip of actual pickleball being played. So the technical term is
I've got it. Basically,
Dinesh Karthik playing pickleball with Gangnam Style.
DK dinking.
DK dinking.
No, I
it's
was
called a
about to say-
dinkathon.
I was about to say, I finally found our identity. Tower Lasagna is the pickleball of podcasts because it is interesting to the people who are doing it. It is not a great spectator sport or a listening experience. This is why we keep going
so
because it's fun for you and me to do the podcast. But it's
now
not
do
a
you realize what we need to do to make leftover lasagna popular?
Tell them.
We don't need to get more listeners. We need to get more panelists. There you go. Simple, solved. Okay. Which of you wants to be on the next episode of Leftover Lasagna? Please write to us. We are going to make this a viral podcast. But the technical term is a dinkathon, which is basically a marathon of dinks. A dink is basically, where you're just keeping the ball in play in pickleball. And there are these videos of dinkathons that go on forever. It is the exact opposite of those badminton rallies that blow your mind, or those ping pong rallies that absolutely blow your mind, where people are just going at it at great speed and energy. But so I think that's what makes this sport great and popular. Yeah,
this is the other distinction, right? I mean, why can't you just play badminton on a badminton court? Because it'll tire you the fuck out, right? Because it takes a lot of energy to keep smashing. But pickleball, clearly you can play for a couple of hours, right? So the effort that it takes for you to, let's say, be in a city, get ready, go out, coordinate with friends and go play. If you have a payout of 2 hours and, let's say, I don't know, 1200 calories, 1500 calories, it's a beautiful, maybe 1200 calories. Is a
very unlikely. You're not going to hit 1200 calories with
let's see.
Most sports.
How many calories does pickleball burn? Continue that. 400 to 600 calories per hour. Okay, let's go.
This makes no sense, because when I used to run 10,000 kilometers, right? So what the fuck am I saying?
First, let us accept that running is the wastest thing you can do.
Firstly, thank you for not again going after I am Ahmedabad there. But no, when I used to measure my running speed, when I do a 10K, I used to try and do it under 50 minutes, which is 5 minutes a kilometer, which is pretty, at least for me, it is quite difficult, right? But doable. It's doable, but difficult. So even at my fastest, 46-minute run, I would only burn 800 calories. So I'm surprised that 2 hours of pickleball is going to burn that much for you.
Running
I'm not sure about these numbers. It's not because running is useless. What it means is it's easy to burn calories. It's not active.
Okay, anyway, it doesn't matter. Fine, you burn 800 calories in 2 hours.
Yeah. More importantly, you don't need to, go to a massage table at the end of it. You don't feel dead the next day, which is what happens if you play a really strenuous sport. Badminton, if you play for 45 minutes at high intensity, you probably need 16 hours to recover from that. And your joints
then
are all going
you
to be
can't have gel man amnesia, because you need those energy gels, otherwise you're going to be dehydrated.
The anointment of this podcast to the echelons of viral content continues. Okay. So, and hence, very accessible sport, easy for men to play, easy for women to play, children of all ages. Every time I see pickleball, I realize, I shouldn't be dissing that sport too much, because I think 10 years down the line, I don't think I'll be able to play any other sport. And at that point, I don't want all this, my criticism of pickleball to come back and bite me in the back. So, there you go.
No, so the point being, right, if you were to look at spaces before, you always had, I don't know, was there a Smash equivalent in Bangalore, or was Smash there in Bangalore as well? Where you had bowling, you had a go-karting rink, you had multiple arcade games, but also you had the cricket nets. You had a football thing where you could try to beat a goalkeeper. All of those things combined with alcohol came into play, right? But it was never sustainable, in the sense that you don't keep going back every week to a Smash.
It's also expensive. Yeah, right. So a couple of things here, right? I know this veering into the sociological and cultural aspects of this discussion.
As opposed to what were we doing before?
Before this, we were just a meandering bunch of mofos. But no, so India specifically, right? I think there have been two challenges. One is, of course, the infrastructure challenge, like you said. Our cities just don't have spaces that are maintained or available for people to go out and play sport. It's changing now with the big cities, especially. I've seen this happen in Bangalore. I'm sure it's happening in Bombay, where you get these turf parks where they lay artificial grass, etc., and you can actually book a field for some amount of time and play sport. That's becoming popular now. But when we were growing up, you didn't have access to any of these facilities, right? If you wanted to play, you would end up going to a park or a corporation ground where there would be no space, or it would not be maintained, or there would be some area uncle or auntie who would be sitting there and refusing to let you play there because it's too dangerous if the ball went and hit them or something. That's
which
one
is
aspect
why,
of it.
once again, which is why Nitin Sundar, like I said, what we used to do, and I'm sure you did this too, was take the cushion of the divan, put it on the dining table, take your Joy ice cream ball, ball ice cream, empty ball, and play hand. It was beautiful. It was
Yeah.
glorious, right? The
It was
problem now
glorious.
is that you don't have a sibling in your within access in the same house, right? So, and you have a multiplicity
And
of chores that you need to end up doing.
in my case, I don't think we had a house big enough to use the dining table for hand tennis. What we instead used to do was we used to convert our very small living room into a squash court, me and my
Correct.
brother. We had the soft McDonald's type sponge ball, right? Just a slightly smaller size. And we used to have these plastic paddles, which we used to get very bright green, bright red ones. And we used to play squash on that wall, right? I mean, this is squash, but not
Yeah,
full squash. So you can't use the
correct.
back and the sides, just the wall. That's what we used to play.
So let's just go to the sustainability aspect of why we were able to do that. One, you were siblings, so you couldn't like escape each other. Two, you needed
You
something
had
to do.
nothing else to do.
Correct. You
Yeah.
had nothing else to do. So you basically,
Yeah.
as much as you fought, you also made sure that this was the most
Yeah.
fun part of the day. Right?
Absolutely.
Bragging rights, tears, all of that would have come in between, but it's still. But when you're an adult, right? Someone said this, no, that
Huh.
the biggest miracle about Jesus is how he had 12 friends in his 30s. That is the true miracle. So it becomes
No,
difficult to
true. No, yeah,
maintain
you're right. You're right. Yeah, yeah.
maintain sustained friendships because like obviously like you're all busy with life happens as it were, which means that
I have one more additional point. You're
add
right about the social isolation that happens as you grow up. But this is not true just for Indians. This is true for people around the world.
obviously
But if you see people around the world who have played sport when they're young, they continue to play sport through their 20s and their 30s and their 40s, wherever they go. They find their community over there.
Yeah.
And I think there are a couple of reasons for this. One is, of course, the infrastructure and the fact that generally they're just exposed to more sport and more opportunities to play as a kid. So they actually pick up the basics of more sports than
Yeah.
the average Indian does. Secondly, I think also culturally they continue to play because it's just something that they look out for wherever they go when they restart their lives. And I can
Yeah.
speak from personal experiences, of course, unlike data, but I used to play a lot in my until I was 20, 25. And then when I started working, I just stopped playing sport completely. And for about 7 or 8 years, I was at my unhealthiest best, or in the worst possible shape of my life. And it never struck me that I should go back and try and play, because I had friends who I used to hang out with. It's just that we never thought
this
that
was
it
because
makes sense to play.
May is just over. We discussed this the phase of life where everybody suddenly becomes fat before
Yeah.
they go back to it.
Yeah, but it's a very Indian thing that you let go of sport. It's sad.
Yeah,
And I think
no, but
I
I'm
hope it
not
changes.
just I'm not talking just about sport, right? So the point being that the difference between a Labubu doll and pickleball is that Labubu doll is a fad because one, it exists in a cultural context in a point of time, and whether or not you get it over a period of time, it just fades because there is no newness to it, or there is no
Yeah.
repeat value to it, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to something like a sport or an activity that you pick up. And why pickleball is amazing is that you sort of get good right from the get-go, right? And if it's
Yeah.
something that you're good at, automatically means that you want to continue doing it.
Absolutely.
And obviously the endowment effect, as it were, kicks in both cases. The endowment effect is basically if you own something, you attach more value to it, right? I think was it in Taylor's book or Kahneman's book, basically, where they had two things, right? Like a mug, a Harvard mug, and a pen or something. Basically they offered a higher than retail price value for the mug, but just because you owned it, you said, no, I won't give it away for a higher amount, right? You valued it
Yeah.
more. So endowment effect is always there, but for things, I guess over a period of time it fades. For activities, they heighten, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, I mean, sport is it's like your own Pandora's box of personal entertainment and social fulfillment, right? If you think about it, because if you're playing sport, you cannot predict what's going to happen in the next moment, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what life is all about? You're looking to try and keep yourself entertained and experience newness every single passing moment, and sport gives you that opportunity. So it's
At what probability percentage would you call it luck when the
64%.
underdog wins?
Or is it 16? 10,000 kilometers. Yeah. Kilometers and kilometers. No, I have to say this. I know we've gone somewhere else, but like all great things, pickleball also was invented in Tamil Nadu, much like computers.
What?
And, yeah. Have you heard of ball badminton?
This is Omaguchi.
Narasimha.
Narasimha.
Omoguchi Narasimhan. Have you heard of ball badminton? We all know
Yes.
badminton, which is shuttlecock. Ball badminton was invented in Tamil Nadu, I think in the 50s, where I think they were out in the field. They didn't have closed courts to play badminton with a shuttlecock as it should be played. So they instead just started playing with a ball. And that really is the origin for what is pickleball. Pickleball is basically the same thing. It is you're playing with a ball, a badminton sized
Yeah.
court, and you're tapping the ball this way and that. But I
Yeah.
must say that ball badminton, on the other hand, I think is a more active sport than pickleball is. It's a pity that
Yeah, no,
our
but-
Tamil forebears did not know how to make it viral.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm just taking pickleball as an example, but I think even
I
paddle
know.
is big time picked up, right?
Yeah.
So I have not played
pickleball is
pickleball.
taken over. Pickleball is taken over from paddle though.
Yeah.
Paddle is a much more expensive sport to play because the court is hard to maintain. There is glass that you need to do and all of that. Even the equipment is a little more expensive. It is a more active sport in that sense, and hence slightly less inclusive. So you can see why pickleball is the more popular one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
No, so I think pickleball was invented in the US, right? As opposed to paddle, which
ball
comes
badminton,
from
which was
Europe.
invented in Madurai. Yeah. Paddle came from Europe. Yeah, Europe, and it's very popular where I live. Apparently, for a brief moment of time before pickleball became so big, paddle had like a massive, massive moment. I think again post-pandemic, I think the early 2020s, right? At which point Dubai invited and sort of welcomed a lot of the paddle community, the top paddle players in the world, to come and play the sport and make it big. So Dubai is full of paddle courts, very high quality courts, very, very expensive to book and play on, but it's available. And even now they host multiple legs of the World Paddle Tour. And I've gone and watched paddle, by the way. At the highest level, paddle is an incredible sport to watch. Great fun and very fast and all of that.
Yeah. Paddle is much more fun to play, right? So think of it as a smaller version of tennis, but you don't have to like keep chasing. I mean, getting your serves in tennis itself is a big thing, right? Forget keeping
Yeah.
rallies going. Paddle that way is another great way of making it more accessible to people who want to get good at things really fast and just feel
Yeah.
the power of doing it, right? As opposed to, let's say, squash, where it's much more difficult to sort of feel that thing. No? So paddle is also outdoor, no? In that sense.
Yeah, indoor/outdoor. Doesn't really matter. But
and
yeah,
you
it's a
can
more
go out
active
of the
sport,
court and like retrieve the
Yeah.
ball and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So you start off by playing hand tennis with your siblings when you're, less than 10 years old. And between 10 and 20, maybe you pick up badminton because you have the energy to play that sport. In your 20s, pick up tennis maybe because tennis is, again, a slow burn, hard sport to play. As you go into your 30s, you graduate to paddle. And by the time so the gradation keeps going. Somewhere in the middle, you pick up ball badminton. By the time you hit the age of 50 or 60, I think the only sport you can play if you want to play a racket sport is pickleball.
Yeah.
So we are all going there. That is the singularity, guys.
No, this is opposite because off late I've started sort of going to the gym and stuff like that. And the one thing that is almost impossible to do is a proper pull up, right? And I did about 2 in a row and I was very kicked with myself.
Yeah.
Except then this weekend, my brother sent a video of my nephew who was just like at home. He's around 12, 13 years. Yeah. And he's calmly just doing like 5 pull-ups back to back. I'm like, how are we worse than what we were when we were teenagers, right? So I think,
Yes.
really realistically, but this is good, right? Because even like the gym is also a prohibitive place for you to go and start with something, right? Because you have to again get good at it or follow a certain set of routines and get the correct form and do it, and then all of these things. I think just generally anything that makes you more active, which is not golf, is a welcome change. And
Golf is not too bad, by the way. Yeah.
golf is not too bad. Yeah.
In the sense, I mean, you walk a
For
whole
the environment,
long.
for
Let's not go into Malcolm Gladwell territory. There's a wonderful revisionist history episode on golf and how it is bad for the environment and how it is the worst sport socially if you need to, because it ghettoizes
Obviously.
places. It's very, very exclusive, doesn't let too many people on the field, etc. But you know about Tiger Woods' hip injury, right? Which
was it
basically
during
comes from
golf
the
or
swing.
extracurricular activities?
It comes from the swing, right? So the golf swing is actually an extremely intense movement and puts a significant
That's
amount of
not
strain
what
on your...
they meant by Tiger Woods was into swinging.
How many holes in one? Okay. Yeah. Anyway, enough of the Tiger Woods jokes. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Anything that gets you out, please go and do it. I don't want to sound like Ajay Shah, but
Please go and do it. It seems rubbish. We try to understand why things become popular and why they stay. So
Absolutely.
basically, we're saying something that can form a habit, which you do as a ritual with a bunch of people, is always something that will outlast something material in that sense, right? So So what is a sustained way of how did you pick up, let's say, ultimate frisbee? And although we didn't sort of mention it in this podcast, you won a bronze medal.
Yeah.
Congratulations over the weekend. But tell us,
No,
as someone who went from being
Yeah.
inactive to now
Oh.
looking forward to ultimate frisbee as your life's main goal at all points of time,
Yeah.
how did that happen?
See, when I was young, we had these bunch of friends, neighbors who used to play. We used to play underarms cricket. We used to play badminton in the common
Hey, did
area
you
that
have
we
that
had.
ring which you used to toss? Like, I don't know what the sport is called.
Tennis
Just a ring.
Tennis court.
Oh, tennis court. Yeah.
Yeah, we used to play tennis court also. My mom used to play tennis court competitively in college
We
level.
just
and
used to
all.
call
So,
it
yeah.
ring.
Yeah, that's what we also used to call it. We basically had, so the common area we had was basically 8 apartments facing each other and a small area in between, okay, in Madras.
Yeah.
And that space was perfect for, you could either use it to play, underarms cricket. It's not big enough to play like a full-fledged game, but you can play something safe-ish. Or you could, across 2 house windows, you could tie a net and you could play badminton. Or you could play tennis court or any of these sports, right? So we used to play a variety of all of these and it used to be great fun. Do you remember that they used to give you a free frisbee with Bonvita?
Yeah.
I think, yeah, the blue one with the hump in the middle, right? The small one, which is not the regular size frisbee. But I remember we all, at least I was very, very fascinated by this thing because unlike a ball, this projectile used to hang in the air. Right?
We used to
And
call it
was more
flying
fun.
disc then, no? I don't know.
I don't know.
Or
We
was it
used to
called a
call it
frisbee?
frisbee. So frisbee, by the way, is a brand name, right? It's like,
Correct.
yeah. So the people who make
Xerox.
frisbee, yeah, and the thing that's actually used to play ultimate tournaments now is not made by that company. So you're not actually allowed to call it ultimate frisbee. And if the sport becomes popular, I'm sure there will be like a
So it's called ultimate.
lawsuit. It's actually called ultimate, yeah. And people just say frisbee because everyone associates the flying disc with frisbee. But I think as kids, at least Indian kids, thanks be to Bonvita, it's probably the only good thing it's done for us, right? Given it's just sugar and chemicals mostly. Thanks to Bonvita, I think all of us sort of knew how to throw this thing, right, and catch it.
No,
Which is
not
probably
really. I mean, that's not how
you
you
know to
throw
throw
and
it.
catch at the
No,
ultimate
but
level. No.
yeah, but you at least know how
The
to
forehand.
bring it
Forehand you knew.
By forehand, you actually mean backhand. Forehand would
Backhand.
be
Yeah,
this.
backhand
Yeah.
we knew. Yeah. Oh, this
Yeah,
is the
we
one
knew.
sport where backhand is easier to master
Yeah,
than
exactly.
forehand.
Yeah. It's great for Federer. Federer should have played ultimate. So I played with a disc before. You know how it works. Like I've said before, I went to IIM Ahmedabad, and most people come out
How?
with
That's
jobs,
the question.
grades. That's the story for
10,000
another
kilometers
episode.
you ran from Chennai to Ahmedabad.
No, people come out with great grades. They come out with a strong intellect. They come out with a career ambition. I took 2 valuable things out of IIM Ahmedabad. One was my wife, and the other was ultimate frisbee.
Now we know for sure Shruti is one of our few listeners who listen to the podcast.
Yeah, so on the IIM campus, frisbee or not, they used to play like a different version of the sport, not the actual professional version of frisbee. We didn't even have the right field for it. We had a slightly smaller field where we used to play a very different, bastardized version of ultimate frisbee, which I think I played every single night of my second year, right?
Oh,
And
really?
that's when I really, yeah,
Oh, nice.
big time. We would start at midnight. We'd start at 12 o'clock, turn on the lights, and we'd play till like 2 a.m., 2:30 a.m., and then go and have food and then go and sleep and wake up at 10 a.m. the next day to eat dosas and then go attend our second year electives. Biggest scam in the world is the 2-year MBA program. Some would argue that there is not even 1 year's worth of content in an MBA. But if you're actually paying fees and going for 2 years, we want your second year or whatever, like 365 days at
Who
least
are
of
you
the 2-year
wanting?
program.
What are these imaginary listeners you're speaking to? I love it. Anyway.
MBA aspirants. Okay. Yeah. But I truly believe that the MBA is one of the biggest scams in the world. And even in that, the crown jewel goes to the 2-year MBA program. But leaving that aside, I spent most of my second year playing frisbee and getting very tired and then waking up late and going for meaningless electives and having a lot of fun. Yeah. So that's how I picked up the sport. And then when I came to Dubai, I started playing actual proper ultimate. And here we are now. Yeah. Since you asked.
No, there is a huge gap between then and now. You, I think, finished your MBA when you were 20 or something.
Yeah, and I didn't play. Exactly. So I did the
How did you
standard
pick it
Indian
up?
thing, right? So this is the whole anecdata thing that I was telling you about, right? I completely lost touch with sport. Yeah,
Oh,
22, and I think, yeah, and my first job was not in India, and initially you're also quite disoriented by corporate world as an Indian, right? It's built up to be such a big thing in your mind that you devote a lot of time and energy to it at the cost of your other hobbies and activities. And for me, sport was definitely one of them, right? So, and then got married and everything, and moved cities, moved countries, just lost touch with all sport, not just ultimate. I maybe went and played with, small teams in Bangalore once or twice. Didn't quite enjoy the experience as much because the infra wasn't great. And again, like I said, what we played in Ahmedabad was not original ultimate. So I found that my skills were nowhere near the level they needed to be either. So I just dropped it completely. And it was only after I came to Dubai that, I thought I'll give it another go, and then went and joined a team. And just by playing regularly twice a week for most of the last 2 years, twice actually is an understatement. I think sometimes it's 3 or 4 times a week. I think just by putting enough time into it, I've gotten better at it.
Yeah, the other beauty of sporting activities, right, is that friendship is not a necessary precondition to hang out. The
Yeah.
activity itself allows you to sort of, it doesn't matter, like if I don't necessarily fully
Yeah.
like you also, we can just be in that moment together. This is like what I'd written about friendships in a cricket stadium, right? Like when you go alone to watch the sport,
Yeah.
you can watch it alone, but generally you also end up making just friendships for the day, right? Which, because your shared love for something that you're watching and enjoying it together, is good enough, right? But you can also get friendships out of sport, not
Absolutely.
that
I
is a
think
necessary precondition, and
most
you
of the
can
friends I've
celebrate
made.
with friends.
No, but this is actually true. Most of the friends I've made in the last couple of years is through Ultimate, right? In fact, probably all of them. I mean, to be very honest, yeah.
Good morning to all of them.
Or they're, parents of my son's classmates. Right? These are the ways in which you make friends beyond a stage in life, right? And I think it's a bit of self-selection also, right? Frisbee Ultimate at least emerged as a counterculture hipster sport, so it attracts a certain kind of person, right? Which I think may not be true for football, which is a much more mainstream sport. And if you're joining a bunch of people you don't know to play football, you may or may not have a lot of like-minded people on that group, and you may not actually meet a lot of people you want to hang out with. But with Ultimate, actually, you're going to go into a group of people who probably think very similarly about that sport at least, and bring that attitude to their life as well. So yeah,
This is
I think Ultimate
another
works.
important distinction between a conventionally established sport like, say, football and pickleball, which has just come up now, is that there are no
Yes.
gatekeepers. Right? You don't
Yes.
find it difficult to get into it because everyone's practically
Everyone's an
starting
amateur.
off at
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a key factor in why
Yeah, that's also a good point.
it is because the entry
Yeah, more
barriers have to be
inclusive.
necessarily low.
Absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
the tennis, like the net in pickleball.
Enough about me. You, I think, regularly play squash, right? With one of our common friends or one of your close friends. How is that going? Or have you stopped? Are you
Ankush.
guys not
Yeah,
friends
so
anymore?
no, that's what I said. So we expanded it to play with another one of our friends slash ex boss. Now we play paddle, and
Oh, you're playing
it's
paddle. Okay.
yeah. And in fact, the last time
But
we
paddle
played,
has to be played in doubles, right? So how do three of
correct,
you
correct.
play paddle?
Yeah. So his son, or there will be the guy who sits there to, you know,
Umpire.
not umpire, the guy who's sitting there tracking how long you've played. But paddle is a more expensive sport in that sense, right? So you can't
Yeah.
really play it every day. But the advantage again is that you're funnier in groups of three or more than one-on-one, right?
Yeah,
So
that we have. Yes.
yeah. So I think that is also
Your
a big
surface
advantage.
area of serendipity for your humor increases. That's what it is.
Is that what it is? I don't know.
Think about it, right? Like, see, I mean, most of humor is lateral thinking, right? If you think about it. Things that really make us laugh is when you come up with something that is totally tangential to what the topic of discussion is, right?
Is that everyone, or is that just us?
This explains a lot about leftover lasagna. Amaze Max observation by Pudu
This explains a lot about our WhatsApp groups because you're
it
right.
does.
In that space of familiarity, there is a lot more scope for serendipity. So
Yeah.
I think the optimal group size for people to hang out is not two, right? Unless they're like really close friends and at all points, or you don't really care about the conversation. So just adding a few more people always makes it nicer to the mix.
I agree.
I think maybe what is your optimal group size?
It's yeah, I agree. It's not two. Anything more than two is fine. I think once it goes over 7 or 8, it becomes a little hard in person,
Correct.
at least.
Yeah, true.
Then you feel the pressure of having to be inclusive. You're also feeling the FOMO of missing out on some side conversation.
Yeah.
And all of that.
I think maybe
I would say
4,
5, 6
3 or
is perfect.
4.
Yeah, 3, 4, 5, 6 is good.
Yeah, I think 3 or 4. Yeah, so I think that makes it even more attractive because both pickleball, paddle are double sports in that sense, right? And also you can generally play as a couple also pickleball, right? So it can just be a pickleball date where there is no
Yeah.
pressure on you to have conversation. You can just play and find out how competitive you are. I think one of the best things that board games can do this too, by the way.
Yeah.
And the moment we realized, Rosanna and I realized that we are in for a long, hard, tough marriage was immediately after we got married, playing. We had about a couple of months off and we were playing Cluedo with our parents. Okay. And I don't know the actual rules, but the way we played it, you could summon anyone to the room that you're in, right? And so both Rosanna and I had figured out who, where, when, but then you have to get to that room to accuse. And like my dad and mom hadn't figured it out. So every turn we just call the other person to the random room. So no one is able to actually make the win happen. Right? So
Understood.
figuring out how competitive your partner is probably.
I mean, that's one way to put it, but really, you guys had just got married. You wanted to get into a room by yourselves repeatedly.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Why like.
This is making it to the edit.
Also, clearly, Rosanna doesn't listen to this podcast.
No wonder. This explains a lot about Rosanna. You said she has just quit her job and has time on her hands, and still. Sometimes you just are born with good judgment, right? So.
No, you don't make the same mistake twice.
Otherwise, you become a crow of judgment.
Crow of judgment. Okay.
No, but imagine a pickleball date is a great idea because it can also come up with good pickup lines, right? So let's play some pickleball and maybe after that we'll have some touchings. Fuck off.
Oh man, you are so right. You got
Hey, have you checked out
very
my
lucky
paddle?
out of IAMA.
Have you checked out my 19-inch paddle? No,
My
that's
God.
not getting it. Yeah.
This is so bad.
It goes back and forth.
Yeah, no, none of these. Let's just be glad that both of us never had to enter the dating pool as
I
it exists now.
completely agree, man. Yeah. No, yeah. So as a complete, not directly related to the topic, but I think this might be a good way to end. Since you mentioned dating apps, right, and how the world changed, and virtually in front of our eyes, right? Like when we got married, when we dated, this didn't exist, and then now I think it's de rigueur, right? If you're looking to date, there is no other way to date. You have to be on 2 or 3 apps and swiping left, right, and all of that.
And
Since we
the point of the apps is that they want to keep you on the platform, so they can't find you. They should. I mean, they're not even incentivized to find you a great partner, so you then log off.
Yeah, so much so that when these apps came, people were like, "Oh, dating is going to be so much fun. It's going to be so easy now to find people." And it's actually been exactly the opposite. Lots of people are just exhausted being on these apps and not finding the right people, right? And instead getting hooked up with the wrong people. I was the connection here is we both said we heard of Labubu and all this random stuff from our kids, right?
Yeah.
And that really is a great sign of generational gap expanding. Is when you struggle with what you believe should be, common tech or common pop culture, and then you find that you're actually completely out of it, and you're learning things from your children because they seem to be in with on their Discord servers or whatever those things are. The truest sign of this generation gap thing or this generational divide on the internet is, we are the generation, of course, which first used Facebook and spent a lot of time there. Before that, we were on Orkut, of course.
Not
and Farmville. Exactly. We spoke about
Did you do
Farmville, right?
Pokemon or Ingress?
I didn't.
Yeah, me neither.
I've not even heard of Ingress, but I've heard of Pokemon Go, which is again had its moment in the sun. But the surest sign of growing old is this, right? We came up with Facebook. Our parents then got onto Facebook, seeing us, and the moment they started friending us is when we abandoned Facebook. And now, if I log into Facebook every now and then to check something because someone sent a link, all I see is posts from my parents' generation, right? And it's like good morning messages, this, that, and all the stuff, and we look at them and snigger from the side. I wonder how long it is before our kids start sniggering at us, right, on their Discord servers.
They aren't already.
I'm hoping our 9-year-olds and 8-year-olds aren't that insidious yet.
One thing is for sure that our kids probably have a better sense of humor than we do, because Prashant DP inadvertently shared something that his son V came up with in class. Not even he shared a bunch of things and it just was there, which is a joke.
Teacher went bad.
A joke that I came up with. What has wheels but flies? And the answer is garbage truck. And I'm like, man, that is genius. What has wheels but flies?
Yeah.
It's like Douglas Adams levels.
It is, but wrong proposition. As a fact-based character, I will point out it should be wheels and flies. The
Okay,
butt
fine.
has
What
no
has wheels and flies?
garbage truck. It's obvious now. Yeah. So my point is this, right? I was trying very hard to make a reel yesterday, right, on Instagram, where I was trying to juxtapose two videos together, sync them, and get some music. I think I might have shared it with you. If not, I will. And while I was doing that, I was like, this is so maddeningly difficult to do on a phone. And all I can think of is if I give it to our kids, right, or even teenagers now, they are so comfortable doing stuff with their on their smartphones, tapping and dragging and stuff.
Why
Which
go
we
so
find
far?
so hard
You
to do.
still don't know how Instagram works there. We know
Exactly.
this.
That's what I'm trying to say. Long story short, that's what I'm trying to say. We are already there. We are exactly where we think our parents are. We are that generation. And soon
right.
we will get Labubu'd into a life of, retirement where all we'll be doing is playing
Play
pickleball.
pickleball.
Because
Yeah,
that's all
which
we
is
can.
not bad. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. That's
I
all.
mean,
Yeah.
senior living
Fine.
community with pickleball, sign me up, please.
Absolutely. Yeah. And podcasts.
And podcasts.
Not this one. Better ones.
This only because it's fun to do it, not listen.
That's true. We'll get everyone in the senior living community to become hosts of Leftover Lasagna. Amazing. What an idea.
Okay. On that note, I don't know what this episode was, but it was very far from where we started, but that's okay. We are post podcast.
Started from there, now we're here.
We have hit 40 episodes, Nitin Sundar. How do you feel about
Life begins at 40. Finally, this podcast is going to be good to listen to, guys. From the next episode, because we just turned 40.
No such promises. There's always jam tomorrow, as they say in Alice in Wonderland, but no jam today. So
next episode is a mystery box. So do tune in.
blind
for
box. Every episode of Leftover Lasagna is a blind. Oh, beautiful.
To us only. It's blind to us only. We only don't know what will come out of it.
Super. Okay, on that note, this is Tony and Nitin signing off. Say bye.
Enjoy Labubu and Lafufus.
Please subscribe, share, tell your friends. Don't go. Wait. Please, don't go without doing this.
Yes, please. Thank you very much.
Let us play pickleball. Bye.
Dinkathon.